Hey guys, this is going to be my review of the Logitech MX Master. So here it is. It's quite the large mouse, and it's a little bit different than anything else I've seen other than its successor, the Logitech MX Master 2S. This is not the 2S, this is the original MX Master. It is still a very feature-rich mouse that I would recommend buying, but for my reasons why, just keep watching. So I got this mouse about a week ago on eBay from someone who probably didn't want it anymore, and it is in quite good condition, so I'm not going to take into account the fact that it's secondhand in this review. Everything seems to be pretty much as normal, just with a couple scratches, physical wear that doesn't affect the grip or the feeling of the mouse at all. So with that said, I've been using trackballs for about a year and a half, and I wanted to move back to having a regular mouse to use for things like playing games and editing video. And so I looked into the price of this mouse, because when it came out a good few years ago, I don't remember exactly when, I really wanted it, and I couldn't afford it. It was like $100 or so, and I really could not afford that. I didn't have a job, and so I didn't end up getting it, and eventually I moved to trackballs due to wrist pain. Well, I've been using the trackballs for a while. I have a wrist brace now, and my ergonomic problems are mostly solved, at least well enough to use a regular mouse again. And I also have this desk mat, which makes it a little bit nicer on the hardware itself when I do. So I decided to pick one of these up on eBay. I got it for about $30 plus like $6 shipping, so a really good discounted price for a good quality instance of the product. I love it. But for me to be able to explain exactly why, I need to do a physical overview. So first thing first, I guess we'll start on the bottom, because that's the boring part. So you'll see right here, it's got the 4 contacts that it makes with the desk, and these 2 are quite wide, which I like. I like that it's not sitting on small pads that'll get easily worn down with use. I don't know how much this particular one was used before I bought it from the other person, but they left the plastic on here. It seems to be intended to be peeled off, but they left it on, so I'm not going to peel it off any more than it already has, because it doesn't really affect my use and it's quite smooth. So, you know, your mileage may vary. If you choose to peel it off, I'm sure it still tracks just fine, especially on a mouse mat material like what I use here on my desk. Other than that, we've got the on-off switch. It's got the red and green inserts for off and on, so that's a little nice touch. We've got the connection button, so that's used for syncing with Bluetooth, and I assume it's also used for pairing with a Logitech unifying receiver, although I did not receive one with this unit, because I got it secondhand, like I said. So I've been using it over Bluetooth. I can't speak to the performance over the Logitech unifying receiver wireless, but over Bluetooth it is really good, which is great because my computer does not have a good history with Bluetooth devices cooperating. It pairs pretty easily. It's fairly easy to set up. I didn't have to look up anything to pair it with my computer on Windows 10, for reference. The sensors right here, it's super good, really accurate. Logitech has a good history with high quality sensors. I couldn't tell you exactly which one. I'm not a mouse nerd, so I'm not big on the model number level specifics like that, but it is quite good in terms of the resolution and the once I turned off acceleration and got the speed settings to where I like them, it's been very accurate both in playing games and regular desktop use. So no complaints there. The sensor is super good, and I'm using a pretty ideal material, you know, a dark mouse mat. Below that, you've got this 1, 2, 3 and a button. You might be asking, what the hell is that? Well, this mouse can be used with up to 3 devices in the same area at once, switching between them with this button. Now, I haven't used this feature myself, so I can't speak for exactly how it works, but from what I gather, if you have 3 Logitech unifying receivers plugged into different devices, let's say a laptop, a computer, and maybe a work computer at the office or something, you could go between them with the mouse on and press the button to switch between 1, 2, and 3, and it does light up. You'll see that it lit up 1 because I'm only connected to number 1. I don't have any others paired, so if I do number 2, it's not moving on my computer. You can't see that, but whatever, I'm going to switch it back over. So that's really nice, and it means that you can go between different setups with minimal pain. The MX Master 2S does have a seamless feature if you install the Logitech software on both ends, where you can move the mouse between screens of different devices, different operating systems, etc. This mouse does not have that, but there is software to emulate it. I think one of them is called Synergy, and I've heard it's quite good, so something to know. That's about it for the very bottom here. On the front, we've got a micro USB port. I had to think about which one that was, which is kind of outdated, but so is this mouse, so I'm not going to complain about it not being Type-C or whatever. I don't know if the MX Master 2S uses Type-C, but this doesn't. It uses micro USB. Everyone probably still has a micro USB cable lying around, especially if you've been an Android phone owner, so it's not a big deal. On the left side here, we've got a pretty wide grip. You'll see how far that comes out of the mouse when I put it sort of like that. And when you hold it naturally, your thumb very comfortably rests on this part here. And this part has mosaic pattern with bumps in it all throughout this whole thumb area. So no matter what size your hands are or where they lay, you'll pretty much get a good grip on it like that from this mosaic tiling pattern area, whatever you want to call it. I quite like it. I'm a big fan of this material, and I think it helps get a good grip on the mouse itself. Right here, we've got these 3 dots, and if you turn on the mouse, it shows you your battery out of 3. So it's not super precise, but it does report battery percentage to the computer. So if you're using, at least if you're using Windows 10, the Action Center, you can go to your Bluetooth settings and it'll show you the battery percentage. I'm sure the same is true for Mac and certain instances of Linux, but I haven't tested that myself. Then above that, we've got a sideways scroll wheel, a forward, and a back. I don't like the design of the forward and back. They're sort of diagonally cross-cut in this little rectangular area here, and I don't like how small the forward button is, and I don't like how sharp the back button is. It does help you keep them apart, which is nice, but I think they could have benefited from either putting them directly on top of each other flat or directly in front of and behind each other, because you're already bending your thumb anyway. I don't think it would have been much of a loss to ergonomics. I'm not complaining necessarily about the feel, it's more just it's kind of a weird placement. It took me a while to get used to pressing the forward button for anything. Luckily, I don't use it that much, so maybe that's why. The side scroll wheel is by default set up as horizontal scroll, and that's fairly useful, but the whole mouse is configurable in Logitech options, so I will talk about that in just a minute. I do not use the horizontal scroll for its intended purpose. Now, in the in the thumb rest here, there is a button. You can't see it, but when you press down on the thumb rest, and it is pretty generous, it's this whole flat bottom part here, you get a button, and that is the gesture button. It's remappable to make, when you hold it down, moving the mouse forward, back, left, and right, do different things on your computer. It's super, super cool, and I will go over that when I look at the software. So if we look at the top of the mouse here, we've got left and right click, we've got a standard stepped scroll wheel that does not click left and right like some do, and we've got this button. This button is mode change. So the scroll wheel on the MX Master has 2 modes. It has a stepped scroll and a free scroll. And you'll see that that's just going. That's just spinning on its own. It is a powered free scroll that is very, very smooth that you can use to scroll through long lists or whatever you'd like pretty easily. I'm a big fan of it, but only in certain applications, so by default I use the stepped scroll. So yeah, I have no complaints about the left and right click. They're very snappy, they're very well made, no complaints. It's your standard Logitech high quality mouse fare. Everything's good about those. The scroll wheel's steps are very defined without being too resistive. Sorry, I'm just turning the mouse off again. It's connected to my computer right now. They're very well defined without being too resistive, and I'd like to say that the distance you get out of each step feels appropriate. I know that's software controlled, so it won't be the same for everyone, but out of the box, so to speak, I had no issues with the mouse whatsoever, and I immediately felt pretty comfortable with using it for everything you'd want to use it for. So now that we've looked at the physical overlay, or overview of the mouse rather, let's move into the software so I can show you some of the customization options that this mouse has. Alright, so now that we're taking a look at the software, you can see that it's pretty straightforward. They've got the option to swap the left and right buttons right there, so that's cool for people who want to do that. I don't know who would want to do that with an explicitly right-handed mouse, but hey, there it is. There's the defaults, there's extra settings and info and serial numbers and stuff, but the basic idea is that you can remap any of the buttons from here just by going in and checking it out. Now, as far as I can tell, you cannot remap the left and right buttons, hence why there is a swap left and right buttons button right there. Everything else, however, is remappable. So the gesture button can be pressed down to get this result here, and then moving the mouse while it's held down will give you the other things that you have set up there. And it's all customizable from these menus. So you don't have infinite options, but you have quite a few options, and it's pretty cool. So I have mine set up for up and down is volume up, volume down, left and right is horizontal scroll. Now, the mouse does, like I said, have a horizontal scroll wheel, but I have that set up for next and previous, which is for music. Luckily, one of the options that they give you is that one. But they have other things: brightness control, forward, back, tab switching for Firefox and Chrome, volume, zooming, lots of stuff. So it's really useful. And the other buttons can be remapped as well. Now, this button, the mode shift button, can be used for all sorts of things, but the most common uses it suggests are to switch the mode of the wheel, as the gesture button instead of it being on the thumb in case you'd rather use a finger, and as the middle click if you don't want to click in the wheel. So, pretty cool. Under the scrolling and pointing settings, there's Smart Shift. That is indeed what it's called, and that's for scrolling the wheel fast enough so that it turns into a free scroll rather than a stepped scroll after a certain speed. And you can change the sensitivity there. There's also the pointer speed, so the pointing sensitivity, and the horizontal scroll or side scroll wheel sensitivity as well. Those are all separate. You can turn on scrolling correction, can turn on whether you want the scrolling to go up is up, down is down, or up is down, down is up, depending on what you're used to. I know Macs and PCs tend to be opposite about that. You can also change that for the thumb wheel. And then they've got the default scroll wheel mode for when you don't have a mode shift enabled. So you can make it either ratchet, which is the stepped scrolling, or free spin, free scrolling. And there's a learn more that opens your browser and shows you all sorts of stuff about what that means. So, that's the software. Ultimately, the Logitech MX Master is a really, really great mouse. I am thoroughly enjoying using it, and I think it's going to be on my desk for quite some time unless I run into more ergonomic issues. So, if you guys like this video, feel free to let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment, etc. If you have any more questions about using the MX Master, I can answer those even better as time goes on from the upload of this video, and I will have already been using it for even longer by the time you see this. So feel free to ask me anything down below, and I or someone else can for sure answer you. With that said, I think that's all for today, so I'll see you guys next time.